I did not think I would ever find love, but then I did. I always just buried my head into work and tried to advance my career path. Well, there's this guy at work, and I'll just tell you right now, I'll get to the point. He's rich, he's one of our biggest clients, and he's a multi-millionaire. Well, I always thought he was cute, even before I knew all that. Well, it turns out every single girl at the office and all the other offices that he goes to absolutely throw themselves at him. Well, when I didn't do that, I guess he found a liking to me because he said I was cute, asked me out on a date, and when I figured out this date was one of the most expensive restaurants in town where they knew him by first and last name, I knew that he was someone special. Well, we decide to get married, long story short, but then my sister, she gets jealous, and by the way, she's always been the prettier person, and my mom even tells me these exact words, which is why I decide to uninvite them to the wedding. Honey, I think your sister would be much more suited to marry your soon-to-be husband. Can you guys believe that? My story begins many years ago, when I break up with my first and so far only boyfriend, Dylan. Dylan was everything to me during my last 2 years of school. I mean, he was never particularly tender, adorable, thoughtful, or even romantic, but I lived under the illusion that he was all of that and more, because he was the only person who had ever paid attention to me for how I was. I know that sounds harsh, but let's just say that I was not the most popular, beautiful girl in my homeroom, so the fact that somebody noticed me was so unprecedented. Anyways, it was an entertaining relationship with several stumbles due to typical high school stuff. We went to different schools, so we could only see each other on weekends, and I was okay with that, and the times we did see each other, we tended to laugh too much. If there was one good thing about him, it was his sense of humor. But in the end, even that could not save me from our tragic breakup. It was precisely during the final days of high school when the atmosphere of departure was already in the air. Many boys were confessing to their impossible loves, and I thought I was safe from those awkward situations because I already had a partner. Of course, I still jumped the gun when I heard the rumor that Dylan had proposed to a girl from his class. He assured me he had not, but over the next few days he started acting a little strange. We didn't talk like we used to, and every time I brought up a subject concerning the sad girl, he seemed to dodge it in the least subtle way possible. It was then that the last class week at his high school began, and that's when via text message he did not even have the delicacy to summon me for a face-to-face meeting. He simply told me, and I quote, "I'm sorry, my love, but I don't think we can continue." Just like that. No more beating around the bush or extra explanations, nothing. In retrospect, I feel kind of pathetic for bombarding him with dozens of messages seeking an answer for something that was already coming. I remember that a month later, already on vacation, which for obvious reasons I had not been able to enjoy even a little, I saw him holding hands with the girl of the rumors. I think that if you go to the mall, you can still find fragments of my broken heart around the area. It was perhaps the worst beating I had ever had in my entire life. The betrayal, the disloyalty, and the humiliation of the lie that was told in front of me made me shed any kind of sympathy for the male gender. And it was such an affair that I did not even consider the vision of the homosexual relationship as a future escape from that strike. I did not want to have to go through that kind of shame again, even with my own gender. I feel like a new me was born that day, one with the heart of stone who would not mind relationship for the rest of her life. And the truth is that it has helped me on a few occasions, saving me from the bad times that can come along for the ride. It was one of the quintessential topics within conversations with my family and friends, and I hated it when they brought Dylan back into the conversation. "And why doesn't she have a partner? What happened to her boyfriend?
When will her Romeo show up? And things like that. I hated them like you have no idea. And the bachelorhood system would last me for several years, more than a decade even. I'm currently entering my 30s, and I can say that my life is not so bad. This is just to serve as an opener for the meat of the story as such, and I'm writing all this because somehow I feel good, happy, strange, because I'm currently dating someone. That's right. You read it right. Years ago, I tried dating someone, but it went terribly wrong, and it reinforced my outer shell, but that was in the past. Since now, Arnie showed up. Arnie came into my life in the most unprofessional way possible. He's currently one of our best clients at the law firm where I work. He wasn't my direct client, but I would see him in and out of the office of one of my colleagues for a while now. He would sometimes stare at me while I was doing paperwork, immersed in my world, and I would always see him whenever I had the chance because of how handsome he is. Even if I wasn't interested in looking for a partner, that doesn't mean I could not look at others with lustful eyes. I just did not think they might be interested in a relationship, let alone that I was interested in a relationship. Anyways, the tables were turned when one of my mates said we were going to have a meeting with Arnie. Everyone but me. Well, that got me thinking. I was pretty good at my job, and I think it was the saddest reason in the world. Let's see. When I got my heart broken in high school, I made a solemn pact with myself where I told myself to focus all my energies on my professional career, and not putting a man as a goal made me invest my much extra time into something more productive. And let me tell you, it was worth it because I got the job I have because of it. Girls, if you're reading this, I won't tell you not to have a boyfriend or girlfriend in some cases, but please, do not dedicate 100% of yourselves to them. Anyways, back to the story. The next day, I asked my friends why Arnie did not want to see me at the meeting, but even they did not know. Of course, by then, far from being interested in anything, I was beginning to form an aversion along the lines of, does he think I'm not good enough to take his case? But one of my partners told me something that chilled me to the core. And that was that he was, interested in one of the members of the firm, but not for the usual jobs. For professional reasons, you cannot have romantic relationships with clients, and many colleagues have had problems and even been fired because of it. And I have been a fundamental part of the job precisely because I don't look at anyone. So, it's an extremely delicate matter, apart from the fact that not many men had been interested in me. Well, not particularly. And before you say it, no, I don't think I'm one of those teenage protagonists who think they have the man of their dreams as if by magic, but truth is, Arnie, he noticed me. He told me that once when he came to my office, introduced himself, as if I didn't already know who he was, and told me a thing or two about his legal stuff, which was so routine-ish that I thought I might fall asleep in the middle of his explanation. Then he said something about the last few meetings with the team, and that's when I, unfriendly confronted him about why I was not invited to the meetings. He told me, I want to talk to you separately, and if you're available that night, to see if maybe we could talk better somewhere. Maybe, I don't know, someplace private. That set off my alarms, that and the fact that the place we were going was kind of expensive, so it was an automatic no-no. I told him we could go somewhere cheaper. He declined, just like that, in a beastly fashion, and he told me not to worry about anything and go where he said. If there was one thing my grandmommy used to say, it was that you should never refuse a man an outing, because you don't know if the love of your life will be hiding behind the glass of champagne he invites. Thank you, Grands, for such an explicit thought. Anyways, I agreed. We went to lunch, and that's when he told me something I still don't believe. He told me that he had noticed me precisely because of the way I was, because I was the best in the firm, and because I've never tried to make an advance on him. He told me that I was one of the factors within his inclination towards the services we offered, and since in all the firms he went to, he just always had problems with women drooling over him. He even opted for an all-male firm, and even then one of them came on to him, saying he came out because of him. What a hard life some people have, I guess, right? We ate, we laughed, we talked, we enjoyed ourselves, and before I knew it, I was in the driveway of my house giving, well, a nice kiss of thank you and a goodbye. I came to consider that it was the last time I had such a good time with somebody, so the tears I let out that night were more than justified, at least until he asked me out again. I write all this so that I can tell all of you readers that the best things in life tend to come on their own, without forcing them, and that they can change at any moment of time, and all that I'm telling you happened a little less than a year ago. And I may be erring on the side of emotion, but this relationship, well, yes, we made it official, has been moving forward by leaps and bounds, and in just a few months I met his parents at a small party he gave. And that's when I learned one of the biggest secrets, and it's the main reason why I did this writing. Now, I don't want anyone to think badly of everything I'm going through or change their view of me per se. I understand that it's very easy to do so with what I will tell you next, but I confess that Arnie has some money. Lots and lots of money. To put in perspective, he has property in over 15 states across the country and businesses in Europe, and perhaps the closest thing I know to... no, I'm not going to shy away. He's a millionaire. Now, the perspective of my story might change for you, huh? But, as I told you, that was not the reason I decided to date him. No, I swear he was the one who asked me out because he said he was so turned on by a woman who was so disciplined and was not simply drooling over him. Even though, little does he know, I secretly was. That's why I feel like it's my reward for so many years in a single limbo. It's not like I was looking for anything in particular. It just came on its own, and it's something I appreciate. To this day, and as insensitive as it sounds, I've got a hard time believing Arnie fully and thinking that he is indeed a good man with no other intentions in mind. I have not introduced him to my family, but the way things are going, the truth is that it won't be long before that happens. And I would even go as far as to say, oh no, I'm too embarrassed. That's the lonely, bitter girl is now thinking about things like wedding rings and marriage proposals. I mean, what kind of woman would think about that? Just kidding, who doesn't? And to top it all off, I don't want to imagine what the man might come up with for me for the proposal, to be honest with you. While I've never liked to draw attention to myself, I feel like his impending proposal, that's how serious our deal is, go figure, will be something the papers will be talking about for days. I shudder just thinking about it, but I just can't contain my happiness. Writing all this has helped me a lot to purge a little bit of all the things I've been holding on to for years. Putting your feelings into words and deeds help you clear and manage your thoughts better. I'm going to read through it all one more time and then come back with another update. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. So today's story is a wild one. I have 3 updates for you, and I want you guys to be prepared, because update number 3 is insane. If you guys are new to the channel, I do stories every single day, so if you want daily videos, the best way to support the channel and never miss an upload is so easy and it's free. Hit that subscribe button underneath this video, and let's jump into update number 1. Okay, call me the world's most procrastinating woman, but you can also call me the flaming Miss Arnie. Yeah, he did it. And what a way, my goodness. It was simply spectacular. First, he took us to the restaurant where we had our first date, and Then he had a mariachi band show up to play regional Mexican music. My maternal grandparents were Mexican, so I listened to that music as a child, and I have it tucked deep in my heart as a childhood treasure. They played and asked me to dance, being the stars of the evening, and then during one of the highest notes during an extremely beautiful song, he leaned over and proposed. We had a good laugh because I said yes, all at once. And he said, "Oh, thanks for the spoiler. Now, can I say the speech I've been rehearsing for months before you say yes?" And the crowd laughed a lot more, and we ended the night crying with joy. And that happened last week, and I apologize for waiting for the update. A friend told me she had read my situation on the page, and she was the one who made me remember to post an update. Joanna, if you read this, thanks, and sorry for the tardiness. The next step will be to meet my family, as I've been very discreet with my stuff all this time. Just yesterday, we had a lunch with his parents, and they welcomed me with open hands. They love me very much and are more than happy to make me part of their family, and I cannot await to announce it to everyone. The wedding is not quite planned yet, though. Arnie told me this was more of an impulse and to make sure I was with him because there's a pretty heavy business period coming up, involving a year or so we'll be entering a bit of a down season for love. However, I've already moved into his house and have helped him as much as possible. Remember I told you about the meetings he was having at my work? Well, it was precisely for this process that'll begin next month. He tells me that after everything is concluded, he will have to double the income than before. And when you figure, well, his figures are in the 7 digits, well, what can I expect from that? He just told me that at halftime I could go about planning the wedding, giving me carte blanche for anything I wanted to ask or do. He told me, and I quote, "Select a country, any country in the world, and that's where we're going to have our wedding." And believe me, I almost fainted when he said it in the calmest tone in the world, and I can't believe everything that's happening to me. I feel like at any moment I could pass out and never wake up. Update number 2. Guys, I come to write this with a bit of embarrassment. We have just returned from the meeting with my family, my mom and sister, and I can say that it was an unworldly experience like, I don't know, from hell. My mother kept humiliating me like I was a teenager just for starters, going on and on about some random fact from when I was little is not the best way for your future husband to get to know your family, is it? Plus, they had not even finished cleaning the house, so the facade ended up looking like a hurricane and blown through the living room. I think the only relatively calm moment with my mom was when she started talking about how she and my dad met. He's only been deceased for a few years, and I don't know if it was on purpose, but at least Arnie was able to take an interest in the story, considering my parents' relationships as something nice and elusive. And that's only half the problem, you see. Adding to the issue is my insufferable younger sister, Rita. It's amazing how I'm almost 30 years of age, and yet she still behaves like she's picking on someone from high school. She's very childish, annoying, and straight up spoiled. And whenever she has an opportunity to say something embarrassing about me, she does not waste it. She's, well, told of when I fell off the playground in the plaza because I was too fat, or when I broke my finger in the pool because I had a bad dive, or about when I peed in the 2nd grade because that was probably the most humiliating, and I did not know when it was going to stop. I tried to tell my mom, but as a strange thing, she did not care about anything her favorite daughter said, because that was another matter. She always let Rita do whatever the heck she wanted, and at least I was able to survive the whole encounter. But to be met with Arnie's bitter comment, "Wow, your sister is really pretty," and that alone was enough for my insecurities to strike. I had to confess to him about a certain matter that I had left aside, and that was the subject of my insecurities regarding my little sister. She had always been objectively prettier than me. Clear eyes, slender figure, always made up with a charming smile, while I was me. And I was not even aware of looking for a partner. He told me that it had just been a comment and that there was much more for me to appreciate than just my physical beauty, and he also said, "Oh, honey, anyone can look cute on the outside, but not everybody can be beautiful on the inside. To me, you're both." My goodness, how could you not fall in love with this man? At least we were able to have a good time that night. I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, and here I am writing this. In the end, the fears I had about my family were somewhat baseless, because every time I talk to this man, he shows me that he's a gentleman in every sense of the word, to the point that if he tells me that he will swear fidelity to me for life, I believe him. And that's not easy, is it? Since with his bearing, looks, wealth, he would be the greatest seducer in town, and I want to believe that I'm the luckiest woman in the world, and that this is just the beginning of a stage that, if possible, will be what I call my happily ever after. Update number 3. I want this to be a public statement where I state for the record that I disassociate myself from my family, or at least from my mother and sister. Formally speaking, there are things I cannot believe in this life, and the biggest of which was meeting such a good man, and the other was that my own family would take it upon themselves to try to stab me in the back. We're only a week away from the wedding, and I feel like I have to put it off so that I can get a good understanding of what happened. But I'll resort to writing it all down so I can oxygenate my brain. Guys, this is what happened. For the next few months, things were a bit tense. Both Arnie and I were still at our jobs, and while he spent day and night in meetings and contracts, I was still at the firm, and in my spare time I was planning the wedding with my friends. Everything was coming together beautifully. Really, we had talked about everything, absolutely everything. From the general entertainment to the centerpieces, the music, the decor, everything. We were even going to do something as daring as being able to invite several people and not be the typical wedding between just a few friends that people always do. It's nice to have that kind of freedom, and I understand that it's something that many people envy. Anyways, everything was going great, but in the relationship department, something was not quite right. I would see how Arnie would come in more tired than usual. Even on days when his shift ended very early, and at night we would go to sleep almost immediately, and sometimes without being able to talk about our things. We had always been very communicative about anything that distressed us, but seeing him so quiet set off my alarm bells. I remember one night I even asked him if something was wrong. Looking him straight in the eyes and with a slight smile, he kissed my forehead and told me no. That if something was wrong, he would tell me at once, and I simply believed him, and although I thought he was hiding something, I did not insist. At first, my insecurities attacked again, thinking things like he was having an affair, or that he was doing badly at work, and that was how I spent the whole period surrounded by little black clouds that were hard to ignore. Anyways, time went by and things went downhill until a day came when everything was going very, very badly. One of the bands canceled, the wedding shifts would not be available for the day, and 2 cases in a row had been lost at my firm. And Arnie was looking the saddest in the world, and I made dinner during the evening, but he had just stood in the living room, staring at his phone, and I would ask him questions, and he would fake interest. I remember getting upset with him about it, and I talked to several friends days ago, and they all came to the same bitter conclusion and said, leave him for this or leave him for that. They said he was unfaithful, that he was cheating on me with someone else or worse, that business was not going well, and that we would end up bankrupt, and bankruptcy like never before. But after dinner, everything was answered. I remember we had eaten chicken, broccoli, And he told me my food was fine after I asked him, and that's when I got angry and I started raising my voice, berating him and asking him what was wrong with him and why he did not want to tell me. I told him to be honest, and almost on the verge of tears, I improvised an ultimatum where he told me that what was going on, he was going to walk out the door of the house. I have never been known for being violent, but I was tired of everything that was happening. I'll write what he told me word for word, and, well, I did something that one of my friends recommended, and that was to record the entire conversation with the phone on the sly. You never knew when it might be helpful, and while that makes me feel treacherous now, by then I saw it as a smart move.
Honey, this has been hurting me for several weeks now, but you're right. And I finally feel like I don't comment on this. I'll pass out any minute. It's your sister, Rita.
By now, I was ready to go. In fact, I even said, "Oh, I understand. This was fun." And I don't know how he did it, but he cut me off just as I was getting up.
No, honey, it's not what you think it is, or, well, not quite. She's been behaving very strangely these days, basically since I've met her, and I didn't want to mention anything so as not to generate a family conflict, much less at a time so close to the wedding.
I asked him what he meant, and he told me that Rita had been trying to seduce him since the day after we went to visit them at my mother's house.
She texted me the next day, saying something like,
"Ha! Thanks for marrying my sister. You're part of the family now."
And I didn't want to take it. I didn't want to take anything too seriously, not even the fact that she was hitting on me, honey. For several days, I even turned a blind eye because, well, I'm very busy with work, and that is just part is not a lie. Second, she's your sister, and I'd rather die than do anything with her. As I say, I tried to keep things quiet because she's your sister and you deserve all the respect in the world, but she just kept on insisting. I threatened to show you the messages she sent me, but she said she didn't care, and that worried me quite a bit. And, well, she began to tell point by point the fact that Rita, the one who has always received everything on a silver platter, tried to seduce my man, and I'm in some twisted way, I don't know, I believed him. Mind you, he insisted on showing me some of the messages he had on his phone, but as soon as I saw a couple, I decided to stop for my own darn sanity. Because of that, and because of the whole situation, which was disgusting, I just wanted to throw up. What I managed to read was enough to corroborate the whole story, and now I understand everything better. Of course, it was hard drink to take, and my first reaction was to immediately go home and make a fuss about everything, and even more so when Arnie dropped the bombshell. I felt I could not hide this from you anymore because yesterday, honey, Rita, she sent me a naked nude in the chat, and one of those one-view photos that disappear.
I don't understand how I managed to conceive the dream that night, for my annoyance knew no bounds, but the next day I went to my mother's house first thing in the morning, telling what happened and giving her proof and details about Rita's attempt to seduce Arnie. And do you know what she said? Do you know what she answered? What the lady said, the demon disguised as a woman whom I feel I don't want to see anymore. She said, "Well, you have to understand, daughter. Rita might be more suited to a man like that. The two of them would make a nice couple, you know."
I lost it. I swear I lost it.
I got up as I've done at first with Arnie and just said, "I don't want to see you or her at my wedding or in my life. Good day." And I walked out the door without ever looking back, and I did not even wait for Rita to wake up. I just left a message with my mom. They had wanted to get their hands on Arnie in every single way, and the way my mom was going along with it was absolutely sickening. As I said, I'm very lucky to have Arnie, who was not seduced by that kind of thing. I would only see his messages and not read us, and in them he would act like a man of honor, showing himself as someone who was not interested at all, and even making the other person see that what she was doing was wrong. But she ignored everything, and now in return I will ignore both of them for the rest of my life. I know, a pretty sharp move, but it's time for me to take charge of my life. I've spent so many years being a mere shadow, and now that I'm finally in the light, nobody will be able to pull me out. I admit it feels a little good, and even in the wedding does get to have fewer guests. Arnie tells me we can add more things to the itinerary. For spoilers, I'm thinking of making it in Paris or Japan. My goal now is to give such an extraordinary wedding that anyone would be jealous if they could not attend. I want them to feel that way. For that alone will give them what they deserve. Godspeed, dear family.
Alright, so this story was insane. I just want to know your first thoughts of it because, well, the mom and sister of this story were despicable. The comment section was ripping them to pieces, but I am just so glad that OP's husband did not go for the sister. I mean, we've seen it happen before in stories on the channel where they would lead to an affair and it gets messy and OP would have to cut off everyone, dump her boyfriend, soon-to-be husband, and end up in shambles. But this story, it turned out a little different. So let me know what you think about OP cutting off her mom and cutting off her sister and saying, you know what, you're not going to the wedding, and on top of that, I'm going to make it absolutely extravagant that you're going to be jealous for the rest of your life. Drop your comments down below. Let me know this one answer. If you were OP and you were in that exact situation, would you cut off your mom and sister too? And how would you do it? Instantly, just let me know. Drop it down below, guys. Thank you for joining me on today's video. I hope you enjoyed the content. If you guys want more daily videos, subscribe to the channel. I'm here every single day. I'll catch you guys tomorrow, and just remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya.